The Count of Vila Franca, Portuguese, Conde de Vila Franca, was a title of nobility granted to a hereditary line of nobles from the island of São Miguel in the Portuguese archipelago of the Azores, most closely associated with the Gonçalves da Câmara familial line. The title was first conferred to Rui Gonçalves da Câmara in 1662, and his branch of the Câmara dynastic family continued to receive the title long until the possessions and privileges of Rodrigo da Câmara. History. In 1573, the captain of São Miguel, Manuel da Câmara, passed on the administration of the island to his son Rui Gonçalves da Câmara, the third such Rui in the family, and went to live in Lisbon until his death in 1578, at a time when the reign of the Cardinal King was nearing its end. Following the king's death, several pretenders lined up to assume the monarchy, including Philip II of Spain, Antonio, Prior of Crato, and the Infanta Catherine, Duchess of Braganza, among others. But it was the conflict between Antonio and Philip II that took center stage. Following Antonio's defeat at the Battle of Alcantara, he remained king in only the Azores, barring São Miguel, where the nobles were indifferent to the monarch. Rui, meanwhile, following his father's death, had chosen to remain in Lisbon and was there when the continent fell to Philip II. He aligned himself, and by association, his family, to the Philippine succession. For his part, King Philip conceded to him the title of Count of Vila Franca. At the time, the countship was the highest honorific title that the king could bestow on a Portuguese citizen, especially one that was not his own son. There were few counts in Portugal, and many of them were wealthy and powerful. The selection of the designation was specifically chosen to privilege the nobles of the island of São Miguel, where the provincial capital had been Vila Franca do Campo until 1522. Yet, the municipal authorities at the time did not appreciate that de Rui was named count in their name, since that title was conferred by a Spanish king. Philip II, undeterred, responded that the title was merely honorific and that the title did not transgress any of the rights and privileges of the citizens of the town. Rui da Câmara eventually arrived in his countship along with a second fleet, ordered to the archipelago to conquer the island of Terceira, which had held out, along with other islands, the acclamation of Philip as King of Portugal. This began a period of unified power in the Azores under the flag of Spain that would continue until the restoration of Portuguese independence. In the meantime, the Gonçalves da Câmara line enjoyed privileges in the Azores under successive captains Donatarios and Counts of Vila Franca. And occurred in the aftermath of the succession of John IV to the throne. Many of the islands of the Azores acclaimed the truly Portuguese monarch in 1641, and Rodrigo da Câmara, third Count of Vila Franca, eventually accepted his governance following the defeat of the Spanish at the fortress of Terceira, and a personal letter from John IV. Rodrigo kept his titles and privileges following the defeat, but in 1650, the Inquisition investigated and arrested the Count from several complaints raised against him associated with sexual escapades, a scandal at the time. His possessions, privileges and titles were confiscated, and his family's position was in crisis. The noble eventually died a miserable death in the convent of Cape St. Vincent in 1601. Through the influence of his spouse in her familial line, though, the Câmaras regained some prestige, eventually obtaining the new title of Counts of Ribeira Grande. List of stewards. Rui Gonçalves da Câmara, 1st Count of Vila Franca, 1578 to 1601. Manuel da Câmara, 2nd Count of Vila Franca, 1601 to 1619. Rodrigo da Câmara, 3rd Count of Vila Franca, 1619 to 1662. Manuel da Câmara, 4th Count of Vila Franca, 1662 to 1673. See also: List of countships in Portugal. References. Notes. São Miguel de Portugal e do Brasil, in Portuguese, 3 Lisbon, Portugal, Zerolda. 1989, pages 219-222.